Good morning, this is Bruce and welcome back to my shop after quite a delay. Several things we can talk about today, and we've got a couple of items on the go, quite a few items on the go actually. One of the things is a refurbishment, well not a refurbishment, but setting up of a 50-ton mechanical press with a big flywheel type press, or what I call a wall banger. I've doing a minimum amount of work on that wall banger to get it operational. It's a second-hand one that my client has bought, and he also provided me with a die set, and I've stripped out that die set, made some adjustments to it, and I've now got that ready to go, but I need to attach to the top of the die set a guide plate. And we'll move on to that shortly. I'm busy making a stack of plugs for test plugs, which I do from time to time. I've also want to go back on the pallet and the idea of drilling and tapping holes in the mill, in the Jimbo. And I'll show you just briefly what I did to make the counterbore inside of these plates for these for the O-ring seating. My stamp, and what else have I got here? Oh, we've got some end shields going on. I've had, this is the 9th end shield I've had in 2 weeks come in for boring out and putting a spacer in there for the bearing. So I've got another 3 have just come in, so that's 9 of those. I've also purchased yesterday a little USB plug, and I'm going to be mounting this on my motorbike so that I can charge up my phone or my GPS or whatever I'm using on the phone. So I'll go to the plugs. I manufacture these plugs, and they're out of plate aluminium. I get them cut, water jet cut, including the 2 holes. And then what I have to do is I have to counterbore so that the O-ring, to provide this O-ring surface. So what I've done is on the drill press, I set up on the drill press. I have a guide plate. I bolted that down on the guide plate when it was at its full thickness. So this has already been machined. And then I drilled. I used this 45mm drill to roto broach to do the first cut down to a set depth, and then I used a 50mm to do the outside hole. So the combination of these two cutters, I produced the counterbore down to depth. Of course, it's got a serrated edge on it. And I then took it over to the lathe, and I've set this in my what I call the 7-jaw chuck, which is a 4-jaw not independent held in the 3-jaw. And that 4-jaw not independent just gripped it on the edges of the 4 jaws, and I had the tailstock with a very long nose on it just there, just in case, just for safety. And then I used the trepanning tool, and with the trepanning tool I machined in and cleaned up the back of the counterbore, and used that to progressively cut all the rest of the material out. So the trepanning tool did all the machining to get rid of all this material, inclusive, and that's sort of a intermittent cut, and did as good a job as it needs to be. And then finally, once that's done, I then take my Gemtrek Let's see if you can see it there. I take my Gemtrek stamp and I stamp it front and back. So I'm doing the old dog watering the tree bit. Okay, so we'll go around here first. We'll just see if we can go out, pan out a bit. Well, since the last time we've seen them, I've redone my hammer. My hammer thing. I took down all the old tools, and I've put the hammer. So we do have a few here. It's not all of them, of course, but there's always something to choose amongst all of those. And then, of course, we've got the other one, the other wall, with all the soft hammers or dead blow hammers, the bozo repellers, and the attitude adjuster up in the corner there. Okay, so we'll swing around now to the Jimbo, which is named after my father, my late father, and we'll pan in there a bit closer, and I'll just move over. Let me just lock that up, move over, and we'll talk this through. So last time I blued the table of the mill and I marked it out with 50mm increments. I said, well, I was considering, because this is quite a heavy table, of drilling and tapping holes through the whole table to give it an expanded possibilities. At the same time, also showed, and there's several videos of this build of the pallet I made some years ago, which will fit on all of my mills, the two knee mills and on the HBM as well. And it's a combination of slots and threads, and it has two screws here, which can line it up very quickly on the thing. Now, there was a huge amount of feedback in regard to what I proposed that I was thinking of doing, and the pros and cons, and I'm very grateful for everybody who participated in that discussion. And I just want to clear up and clarify now. Maybe I'll come closer to the camera. Yeah, so what I want to clarify is the whole thing was tongue-in-cheek. To see what the community as a whole thinks of such a thing. We do from time to time come on to old equipment or second-hand equipment which we'd either like to buy, or it jumps off the page at us because somebody has had a misadventure and drilled holes in the table, and we cry foul as a rule. It's not a nice thing to see that somebody's gone through it. And the whole idea of the aluminium pallet or aluminum pallet, as my learned friends from the United States call it, with the aluminium pallet is it's sacrificial, and it's there, and the usage is there, and even if it's just a blank piece of plate or even a steel plate, doesn't have to be aluminium, and between the workpiece and the table is there to protect the table. We want to have that table as in pristine condition as possible. So no, I would never do it. Maybe if I had, never say never, of course, but maybe if I had 10 milling machines and there was one that I could afford to do that, maybe. But seriously speaking, no, I'm not going to do it. And it was just more of a conversation piece, and I'm really happy with the feedback that came back. Some people rapped me on the knuckles, some people said a good idea, and everything in between. Right, now we'll move over to the present job, or one of the jobs that I've got running consecutively here is to do with the power press, and I had to take the ram off the power press. I wanted the plate that's at the bottom of the ram. However, when I went to take the plate off in situ where that press is, I couldn't get it off in situ because somebody in their wisdom had welded the 6 cap screws heads to the plate. So I had to bring it here, and I've offered it up onto the high horizontal borer, and I proceeded to drill out the heads so I could take the plate off, and then I can grab all those bolts and pull them out. I don't believe it'll be a problem. Why they opted to do that, I don't know. But in the process of loading it up onto the HPM, I discovered that there's some significant cracks in the casting, very significant, and there's evidence there that in the past repairs have been undertaken. However, on the one side, the side that you'll be able to see here now, that repair didn't work. On the other side, it was much more, it was better. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this plate off and inspect the base to see to the bottom of the ram to see if it's nice and straight. If it's not, while I've got it set up, I'll probably machine the face. And I'm hoping not to find any secrets behind that plate, but you'll be there and you'll watch that process with me in a minute. So without ado, I'll turn this around. Right, let's get that down a bit. Right, so this is the ram. That's the plate at the bottom which I need to be able to mount onto the die set. I want that on die set because I need the guide pins here. For this has a 100mm stroke. I only need 20mm. So the die set's going to come apart, and so I need to set those guides up. Now, going back up to the top end here, let's see if we can get in a bit closer. Not sure whether you'll be able to see it. I'll grab it. Here we have a crack going all the way down through, and it appears to go all the way back. So what I'm going to do is, and the other side has got a crack, and so it's had a weld and it's been stitched across here, and the rest of it's developed up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, once I get the plate off, we're going to take this and have it mag particle tested to see if there's any more and how far it goes, and then we'll decide what we're going to do. The client wants it repaired. I've brought this to his attention, and there's 3 options here. One option is to weld it, to grind it all out and weld it. Another one is to do cross stitching, and the third option is maybe to machine out a counter section in here and put a plate in, or even a larger plate up here, and screw it into the casting. So once we've done the mag particle test, the MPI, we'll be able to return. So what I'll do is I'll swing around here now. Now you can see I've drilled the heads out of these. There's 3 here, 3 screws this side, 3 on the other side. I put a couple of bolts in here just so it wouldn't fall out on me, but it's sitting on the bolt. So we're just going to go ahead now and remove that plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put something down here so that if it drops, it doesn't do me any great damage. Because I've only got 1 HPM, I don't want to lose it. Okay, so I'll pull that out a bit now. Yeah. So now we're going to try and see what happens when we take this off. Okay, so go on the other side. So there's the 6 bolts, which I'll now get out, and really the face looks good. So what I'll do is I'll probably go ahead and make a much smaller plate, a much thinner plate to go on here, and simply because of that, because of the clamp arrangement, the pin clamp arrangement, we need to look and see this probably needs some TLC here. We'll get that moving, get all that to work again, and make it good again. So I'm not worried about here, that looks good, and a small plate just as a keeper will work for this. So next cab off the rank, we're going to take this off once I've taken those screws out, take it off and get it for the MPI cleaned up and for the MPI testing. So thanks for the watching my little show, and we'll be back with the next stage of this. So everybody stay safe. What's it, Wednesday morning here now. I'm heading out into the sunset tomorrow for my annual ride with my friends, and we're doing this in the name of a friend who passed away, Jim, who passed away, one of 4 brothers who ride together, who passed away 2 weeks ago from cancer, and my best wishes to all of those out there that are fighting the big C. I've survived. Hopefully I'll never see it again, and I wish everybody else a safe journey from today on. Thanks.